Hello and welcome to the Auto Guide Show. This week we have some huge new debuts. Kyle and I drive some fun trucks and Kyle drives something fancy. But first, a word from our sponsor. eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. With their new secure purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. And eligible vehicle purchases are backed by up to $100,000 in protection. This is what modern car buying looks like. Get your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. All right, so for those of you watching, may notice that we have Greg with us again, but Kyle's also here and I'm here. So the three of us are going to cover all of the news and reviews because there's some big news this week. And instead of a guest, we'll just spend a little more time there, and then I'll call him on later to talk F1, and we'll wrap it up with what's ahead. So welcome again, Greg and Kyle. It's nice to be back.
Right. We had Greg for the last 2 weeks subbing in for one of us, so now it just makes sense that the three of us are all together.
It's a three-person show, so hey.
Yeah, it was like Colin and I too. We missed 2 weeks because of our vacation, so it's been a while, and the whole crew's back. All right, so let's get started with easily the biggest news of the week is the much anticipated Honda Prelude has finally officially fully been revealed. And what do we think about it?
I'll let you guys go first because I'm pretty positive on it. So
I love the look. I know people are saying it's just a Civic Coupe, but I don't think so. I think it's more than that. If you expected Prelude styling cues, like that wasn't going to happen. It looks like it should for modern car, and even the Prelude itself completely changed every generation. So there's no precedent there. With Civic Type R pieces, it should drive phenomenally. The only thing I'll hold judgment till we drive it is the hybrid system's great in the Civic. I just hope it's like it's in sport mode all the time. Like they've made it more eager, and then I don't think it'll be a big issue. I know people will bag on the electronic continuous transmission, but wait till you drive it.
I'm actually cautiously optimistic too. I'm very intrigued to drive this. I think I give Honda a lot of credit for going down the coupe route. I mean, who else is doing stuff like that these days? I think the hybrid powertrain is going to be solid. Honda's done a good job with that. And of course, the Type R bits. I mean, yes, please. Let's see what they can do. I think the interior, that's one of those I think you really have to see, feel, and touch and experience just to see. But Honda's been pretty solid with interiors for the last probably 5 or so years. So I'm cautiously optimistic on this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards positive for it. I think, like Mike said, I think it looks fantastic. I did realize Canada is not getting the boost blue color that is in a lot of the hero photos. The press releases for that had photoshopped red ones, and I find that interesting because this white and blue interior, I hope no one's going to spec it with a red exterior because that's a cursed combination. But I agree that it looks good inside, and Honda's quality has been solid. And I think now is the time where a hybrid actually makes sense. If Honda would have brought back a Prelude 10 years ago and said, oh, it's going to be hybrid only, I don't think it would really work with this idea of it being a Grand Tourer. And now when you contrast it against something like the Civic Si, which is a more pared back sport compact that we're used to, or the Integra, which is a little more luxury focused, I think there is a small part of the market that this fits into nicely. The hybrid powertrain is great in the Civic. I don't feel bad missing out on the added interaction of a manual. And now that we're going to have this S Plus shift feature, which will simulate shifts, I feel like that'll give people more of that flavor if they want it. I think this works. I hope the market reacts positively to it because I think it's a unique thing. Like you said, Greg, no one else is doing this. When the Civic Coupe died, that was the last of the front drive coupes. So now we have one again.
This reminds me a little bit of the Cherokee I saw a few weeks back, where I think some of the real like hardcore base was maybe hoping for one thing, and then they got something a little bit, maybe not quite what they were hoping for. But I think Honda did a good job being like forward facing with this, with the hybrid, I think it's a good looking design. I really do. So I think it's, just like the Cherokee fans didn't get a carbon copy of the old XJ. This is not, the early 2000s or 1990s Prelude, but I think that they did what they had to do. They moved it forward. And I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think this whole, like any vehicle that comes out is fully going to be a success or failure depending on price. If Honda prices it up around the Type R, it's going to be an utter failure. But if they keep it closer to the SI, because the Prelude, the last gen Prelude at least, it was this front wheel drive, crazy handling performance car that could run with a lot of rear drive 4 and 6 cylinders of its time. So in my mind, this needs to be the front drive BRZ basically. But if it's 10 grand more, it doesn't matter. So pricing is going to be a big factor.
Yeah, and that was something interesting. Honda's PR sent a follow-up email today about this, and while they're not telling us price yet, they did give us the Japanese pricing and then talked about the conversion as a way to just, let us know roughly where it might fall. And with the conversion, it's 40 grand, 41. And that's tough, right? Because that's 5 grand above where the Integra starts. And I expected it to start above the Integra because this is more loaded. There is no base model. But I think this needs to start under 40 to really make a dent.
Yeah, like you're playing in some high-powered territory at that point. And again, the original Prelude, well, not the original, the last Prelude was kind of pricey, but it was equivalent. I mean, I guess like a fully loaded BRZ is around just under 40 now, but
yeah,
still,
yeah,
the Nissan Z isn't much higher than that. You're plenty well into EcoBoost Mustangs, if not up to GTs. I'm not saying you're gonna. I mean, Kyle had a whole article. I'm not gonna say these are cross shop, but the only things that you can think of that are performance.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could get a very well-trimmed GTI for that money, right? And then you're getting into an interior that's just as nice quality, more powerful, just as practical. The Prelude obviously has the fuel economy advantage, and maybe the handling advantage against its front drive competitors because it does have Type R bits. So yeah, I'm very curious if you can get a base Z with literally double the horsepower of a Prelude for the same money. That's going to be tough. Although then you're stuck in the interior of a Z.
I think in this case,
it's not like this is going to be used.
Yeah. I mean, if you can stick a car seat back there, I think that's going to be tricky. But you'll probably be able to get, I don't know, a booster seat back there, pretty reasonable. So, and that's truthfully probably not the market here too. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, especially you look at some of the figures. 200 horsepower is like exactly on the nose what the old one did back almost 25 years ago. 232 pound-feet of torque, though, that's a torquey experience there. I mean, that's going to be, I think, pretty fun to drive. Contextually, when you think back to like what 200 horsepower was in the year 2000-ish, and then what it is now, I almost kind of wish, hey, maybe they could have added like 20 or 30 more just to like, because 200 horsepower now is like, I mean, that's like an HR director's Camry or something, that's nothing special. Like, but 20 years ago it was. So it feels like they should have maybe goosed it up a little bit just for appearance's sake.
Especially since this Prelude's going to carry like 300-400 more pounds at least, because just everything's heavier nowadays, plus the hybrid tech. So
the Japanese specs put this at 3,200 pounds, so it's actually nicely light for a hybrid.
That's not too bad, because the Prelude was just under 3,000, so that's only just over 200 pounds. So that's not bad. Anyway, let's move on because we got lots to talk about.
We do.
Like the next big debut, which, I mean, we are all children of the 80s and 90s that loved the Prelude, so it was sort of more near and dear. But this is arguably the bigger deal. This is BMW trying to reinvent the brand's styling and sort of, I wouldn't say they're their philosophy because they still want fun to drive. But the new iX3 is the first of the new A Class A that has been teased 6 times before. But hey, it's finally here, kind of. It'll be produced later this year for Europe, and we'll get it probably summer next year. So they already have an iX3 in Europe, not this one, just an old one,
Yeah.
which is like the X3 all electric. But this is the first of the whole new thing. And I was in Germany to see it in person. There's a video you should check out on the YouTube page. I was, as we've been saying this whole podcast, positively optimistic about it. It's the 50 drive. So basically what'll be the big power is coming out first. So it's just under 500 horsepower from the 2 electric motors. The way the electric motors and computers and everything, and the battery, which is over 100 kilowatt hour usable energy, everything is so much more efficient and requires less pieces and hopefully keeps weight down. The styling, it's grown on me. I think it's better than the current BMW styling. I know a lot of people don't like it, but they're purposely trying to look like the original new A Class A from the 60s, which I think is kind of cool. And in person, that grille actually does kind of slant forward a bit at the top, and the bumper exaggerates that look. Inside, there's so much space, front and rear. 4 adults are fitting in this thing, even though it's within an inch of the current X3 in every dimension. It's a little longer, a little shorter, a little longer, a little lower to the ground, and a little less wide. The cool thing is, like every car nowadays, it has a pillar-to-pillar screen. It's 44 inches, I think, and it's about 2 inches tall. But it's all 3D to a degree. So it looks like the stuff you're looking at in the screen is 2 feet further down than it really is. So it kind of gives you perspective where you can look at the road more and the info. It's really cool. And the touchscreen allows you to customize what you see there, sort of like Lincoln and Cadillac have. It has 3D augmented reality head-up display. Couldn't really use it because it was stationary, but that's going to project something like 19 feet down the road. So it looks like where you're looking, you're actually seeing the stuff down there as opposed to having to look down at your little screen. So all the text there, like I said, it's built on an 800 volt architecture that can charge at 400 kilowatt speed. I mean, good luck finding that charger anywhere. They'll come one day, but yeah, they're saying it could do, I think it's 300 something kilometers of range in 10 minutes if you have a 400 kilowatt architecture. But yeah, so I mean, I got to touch and feel. I'm impressed. What do you guys think?
I like it. I think this is, I kind of like the Neue Klasse, however you say it, styling. I think it's, BMW is, they're not afraid to take risks, and I like this. I like the kind of throwback grille. I think it's funny how divisive the grille is. We could do a whole show on the BMW grills, but they've actually really changed quite a bit over like the last, their history. So I kind of like that they're doing this throwback, even though it's not a direct throwback. I think the clean styling looks good. The electric architecture and range and everything sounds very promising. I like parts of the interior, just looking at the pictures. And I know, Mike, you did see it much more closer than I am just through pictures. I don't love cars that have that kind of like almost horizon, like visual display setup, and then have that big screen just tacked on like the iPad. I much prefer like Lincoln's, where they do it pillar to pillar, but it's a bigger screen. Like if you're going to do it, go big. Don't give you that kind of like, again, the way I described is almost like a horizon type setup. Like to me, that's just not as usable. I'm actually in a Mercedes right now. It's the EQS, and it's just screens, but it's all very more usable. I realize this is different price point, different segment, but that's my soapbox on the different screen interfaces. So that's one thing I don't love about this. Maybe, drive it, be a little better, but overall, I think they're in a pretty good spot with this. I think, BMW is still being aggressive here about electrical architectures and try to, advocate for that. And, again, I like the design. So I think, in fact, I think I like it more than many things BMW has done recently.
I was just thinking the same thing, Greg. Is from a styling perspective, these pictures, I really like this in a way that I haven't felt for a lot of modern BMWs. But to your point, they've the brand has taken a lot of swings and is not afraid to take risks in a way that the other German brands just don't. I mean, I guess Mercedes did with the EQS, and we see how that went. But largely, I think BMW is the least conservative of the three. And this is a new look, but it really does feel old school influenced in the nose, especially. I think the proportions are good. It's interesting to me that it's so close to the X3, because then I wonder if it's sharing a platform, like a basic platform architecture. I know that the EV architecture is all new, but it seems strange since the X3 just debuted last year, right? And so I'm trying to make sense of that, but this all sounds promising. I like the look of the interior. The new steering wheel probably takes some getting used to, but I again like that they're taking a chance and making a very interesting looking design. I was very jealous that Mike got to do this, because I've done multiple BMW trips that have led up to this, but not the actual Neue Klasse. And so I remember experiencing that Horizon screen at CES a few years back. There was the Neue Klasse X concept a year and a half ago that we got to see. And I think BMW has been slowly building this, right? They've been getting us used to this idea. And I think this is the right thing for the market. The charging sounds super impressive. The range is great. I just wonder what's going to happen to the iX. This feels like it's nearly the same size. Maybe not as fancy. It's going to start at a much more reasonable price range. But other than that, like I don't know why you'd go with an iX anymore.
I feel the iX's days are numbered. Like, I think there'll be an iX5 down the road to go with the iX3, and it'll be, slightly bigger or something. The steering wheel you brought up is an interesting point, because that's my favorite thing. It's crazy, and the pictures don't show it, but it's only attached at the top and the bottom with this sort of almost like framework metal pieces. The pieces at the side are actually not connected to the wheel, and that's where all the function buttons are. But everything fits where it should be, and it's one of those things that you got used to using it, it would be fine. But it's not not something that you'll just jump into. But I think it'd be better than, say, the Mercedes, which has never been good in my experience. So yeah, so size-wise, it is way less cargo friendly than the X3. It's kind of swoopy, so it kind of explains why the X4 is dead. This is more of it's like almost half the cargo. When you put the seats down, it grows, and it does have a 2 cubic foot frunk for, I don't know, tiny things. But BMW did say, well, I'm just looking back on my article to get the exact number, but they're going very aggressive. So 40 BMW models will have this technology by 27, so in 2 years. Now, that's not to say they'll look like this, but that new iDrive and the Horizon screens and all that, they're gonna be everywhere soon. So get ready for it.
What I just want to add to about this is what I really appreciate about BMW, and I'm sure they gave the same messaging spiel to you, Mike, when you were there, is they see a holistic view, right? That I think makes a lot of sense, and I think car buyers would like to hear more of. Is there is no one answer. Like, yeah, they're moving towards electrification, and in Europe, there's a lot more electrification, and their plugins run 50% of the time on EV power. But they're reinvesting in hydrogen. They're still doing gas. They see a diversified approach as the only way to make sense, and I really appreciate that a brand is upfront and honest about that.
All right. Well, unless Greg has anything to add, we'll move on to our next one.
I think we're good. I think we hit that pretty hard.
All right.
So a complete different direction. Kyle and I did a comparison, which wasn't really head-to-head. It was more of a fun, and it was about off-road fun. So we each grabbed a brand new pickup truck, sort of mid-size, that we thought would be the most fun off-road ready truck. I will start with what I got. I grabbed the new Tacoma, the non-hybrid max, just the regular version, because it has a 6-speed manual option in the TRD off-road. See, off-road's right in the name, so I'm good to go. Yes, it's not the most off-road capable by far, but it's still got decent tires and ground clearance. But I have a 6-speed manual. Before we get into how it drives, Kyle, what did you bring?
Oh yeah. Let's conveniently skip over how the 6-speed manual drives. Yeah. So I brought the Jeep Gladiator, the Willys. I mistakenly thought that there was a 6-speed manual still available for it. That is not true as of 2025. But it is the only convertible pickup out there, so that earns it a whole lot of fun. And I mean, it's a Wrangler with a pickup bed. That's the shorthand, but it's true. They haven't even, as we pointed out when we were walking around it, they haven't even changed the rear doors. They still have the awkward cut that makes them very tiny, where the wheels would be on the Wrangler. But you know what? It was weird. It was interesting. I drove this, and I'll be honest, I wasn't hugely looking forward to it because, I don't know, I've driven a Gladiator a few times over the last few years. Nothing has really changed. But since we did a comparison with a Wrangler recently, it provided a really nice perspective of how smooth the drive is in the Gladiator by comparison, because of that longer wheelbase, that it's actually pretty okay to drive. I know it's not good for truck things, but this is a statement. It just happens to be a pickup. So it's like a Wrangler, and I really enjoyed that.
It is the best driving double solid axle vehicle sold today.
Exactly. Yeah.
If that's a thing. So okay.
So let's go back to your 6-speed manual though.
Yeah. So it has the turbo 4-cylinder, which is fine. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's like, I need the Iron Anchor V6 of old. Like, whatever. Makes more power, way more torque compared to your V6. It had little less power, but way more torque. We both agreed, way more usable torque. Going up hills, you would have to downshift the gear two with your auto to kind of keep up, or get a little heavy with the throttle. This thing just powered. The 4-cylinder is really interesting though, because as a lot of direct injection engines are, it kind of clacks, and with the little turbo whistles that are audible, kind of feels like you're driving an old Tacoma diesel, or Hilux, I guess, more so, which kind of gives you this old school feel, which perfectly matches the transmission, because I'm pretty sure Toyota dug into their 1980s parts bin to find this transmission. It is a massively tall, long throw with a plastic top, and it takes a big effort to switch gears. I don't mean in the sense of it's tough or strength. It's just you have to launch from one gear to the next because of how long the throws are. And then when it's in gear, every time you hit a bump, because it's actually connected to the actual transmission, the whole thing shakes back and forth like an old school manual. So as you're driving down these dirt roads, my gear shift lever is literally moving within a foot back and forth nonstop. And the bigger the bump, the more it's going to jump. And if you watch our video, I got some footage of it dancing around. And that's just how transmissions were in tons of cars back in the day. And when you add that sort of fake diesel soundtrack, it just feels like you're driving an old truck. And we were trying to find fun. It is not a fun manual. It is not all that fun to drive in the sense of like enthusiastic fun driving, but it's fun because it feels like you're in a bit of a time machine and you can go over decent amount of trails.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what,
not as fun as having your top off and a bright green truck, but
that truck is just crazy looking, that Gladiator. I wasn't part of this one, but I will say this. I'm not a huge fan of the manuals in either of these trucks. I know that might be blasphemous, but it's so much work to drive them. You know, I much prefer, and they both offer really good automatics. And don't get me wrong, I love a good manual transmission in almost anything, but these trucks are a lot of work to drive. And I think I could say that without ruffling too many feathers with the stick shift. And, you know, I do think the new Taco is really a great truck. It's really something that, you know, is offered. I think they did what they had to do to update it. And, you know, the Gladiator just continues to abide. They did some light refreshes a few years ago, and it's still a lot of fun. I guess my other sort of hot take on this is I actually think the Gladiator rides better than the Wrangler. I think that longer wheelbase it's way more forgiving. And, you know, it's just, you know, the Wrangler can be very harsh, and the Gladiator, I just think dimensionally smooths things out.
Yeah, if people have the extra room to handle having the pickup, and don't mind the price, I would actually steer people towards maybe trying the Gladiator if they were thinking Wrangler, because it does ride much smoother.
It doesn't wander as much either, which is
yes. It's easy to take the roof off too. I think that's kind of obvious, but much to my surprise, one day I came out and my 7-year-old, maybe 6-year-old at that point, this was last year, had the roof largely off. He had pulled both of the handles and like was lifting it up. And I'm like, I think that roof weighs about as much as you. So, I mean, it just shows, Jeeps, the cult of Jeep starts young and they're easy and accessible, and kind of want to drive a Gladiator right now. I guess that's my other thought of this.
So before we move on, just to your point, Greg, about the trucks and manuals, like obviously we're not expecting a manual in a truck or a purpose-built SUV to be like a Honda S2000. But because there was such a low take rate, it's like the technology or refinement just stopped because why invest into it? And the ones that exist, they're just so out of step. And like you said, the autos are good. I mean, different class, but a similar situation is I remember years ago, I drove the last V6 manual Cayenne and I was so excited. I was like, oh yeah, I still got a manual Cayenne. I remember driving it being like, oh, like this manual isn't good and it doesn't make the Cayenne any better. So yeah, it's, I said in my review, if you're going to do a lot of serious off-roading, you're probably not buying this truck anyway. But if you are going to do a lot of like more hardcore off-roading or towing or dead and you want full control, there's no better thing than to have your manual to check your gears with a 2-speed transfer case. But that's a small percentage of people, which I guess is why this is only available on two trims. All right, moving on to, hey, we're back to debuts that are very important for manufacturers. Audi has introduced the Concept C, which is, well, it looks like a electric TT, but from some angles, they're going to hate me for saying this, but I get some Crossfire vibes.
Crossfire vibes. Wow, shots fired. Okay.
Not that we were in Audi's good books, but we're definitely not now. They have made a new book just to burn our names in it.
This overhead shot with the way the back is, it's only the overhead angle, like from the sides and the 3/4, no. But yeah, it's gonna be, I wouldn't say it's quite new at Class A for Audi, but this is sort of hinting at where they want to go as a brand stylistically and probably technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in terms of design, this seems like a new one, which is good because Audi's design language the last few years has just kind of, it's my turn for a hot take, I guess. I feel like the VW group, like VW, Seat, Cupra, and Audi, they've all just kind of blended together and they've gotten more close stylistically than I think maybe they should be. And this reinvents Audi in a way where the shield grille is prominent again. It has a more distinct, like a rectilinear face. I think this looks great. It calls to mind a lot of the great concepts from the 90s and 2000s that Audi nailed, because that's when they were doing their best work. And so, hey, cool, a new era, I'm on board.
It reminds me a little bit of like a GTR, a Nissan GTR, and I mean that in a good way, as in like a kind of muscular coupe that they're trying to make a statement. I also like the fact that they're just doing a concept coupe. It's like the Munich Motor Show is, happening, and like Audi's like, hey, we're gonna, get our design language out there in the news too. It, like I wrote in our hot takes, this feels like 2015 or something. So, credit for doing this. I don't love every element of it. I definitely don't see the 1936 Auto Union Type C race car lineage they're trying to like draw into this. That's a bit of a stretch, but hey, I think what will be interesting is to see what they do with this. Do they actually make, an interesting coupe? Are they gonna, are we gonna get like a TT or a TTRS or something like that? Think of all those years, Kyle, like you said, they did those cool concepts. Like it seemed like every auto show, we got a cool e-tron concept or something. Mm-hmm. It'd be great if they could do that or something like this. And, because I think as Honda is showing, I think there is a bit of a market for coupes. So let's go for it.
I agree with you, Greg. If they wanted to go full Type C lineage, they should have put the dual rear wheels on, really, really go after the old hill climb look and stretch it out a bit. Kyle, to your point about the shield, I think that's huge. Audi has like a cool logo, like one of the coolest, and I've always loved it. And too many of their modern cars, you can get it blacked out. And to your point about styling, just yesterday I saw a car coming. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What's that? And I was thinking of like a ton of brands, and as I got closer, I was like, oh, it's an Audi, because the four rings were blacked out on the grill, and I couldn't. And it was slightly modified, so I couldn't tell. I was like, yeah, I don't even want to get into the cars I thought it might have been at first, but like, be proud.
Did you think it was a Crossfire?
That's what this is. No. I said it's only the overhead look. I see the GTR in the front end, like you're saying, Greg. I do see that. No, it's just so many sedans look so similar now with the thin little lights and the blacked out grills, and they have a prestigious name and history, and flaunted a bit more. I think. I mean, BMW is going a little over the top with their kidney grills and badges, but there's a happy medium in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited about this, and I know that. Well, I think this is sharing the platform with the Porsche EVs that are supposed to replace the 718s, and so dynamically, look, I know that's a whole other subject of whether or not those should be replaced with EVs, but if I'm going to have a brand make an EV sports car, I kind of want Porsche to do it. So if Audi gets to benefit from that, sweet.
I mean, here, I agree totally on that front. And I would argue that this platform would be actually better served for Audi, because this is kind of what they do, is like Audi is like electric coupes, things with this types of proportions. You just think back to all those e-tron concepts. Like I said, to me, this makes way more sense for Audi versus an electric 718, which, hey, I love EVs, but to me, the 718, you got to have a gas-fed motor and those things just for them to be sort of what they are. So,
and if there's one styling element that makes it off this car, Audi, keep those taillights. I love those taillights. They look really cool.
Yes.
All right, moving on to another debut, far less important for the manufacturer, but still pretty cool, is Mercedes is teasing that the G-Class, their big off-road SUV, is going to go back to cabriolet. And now this isn't Wrangler cabriolet where you're taking the roof off and the doors off. Like, maybe you could. But the kind of old school where the back section opens up only. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be similar to the Maybach from about a decade ago. I guess you get your servants to take the roof off for you. I don't know, or your posse because you're about to shoot a hip hop video. I don't. This is so far removed from like everyday folks, but it's gonna be what everyone wants, right? Because that's what the G is. It's what everyone wants.
It's the ultimate image car, right? Like that's why people buy them. It's like a Wrangler, but like 5 times the money, but it doesn't drive well. It's just people want to be seen in it. So what's a better way to be seen than if the roof's missing? So
I think I need to just send a message to the press fleet. I kind of want to drive a G-Class. That's my main takeaway from this. Is this just reminded me that, along with the Gladiator, is like, hey, let's
every car we're talking about, Craig wants to drive.
Like I think I want to drive that one
list.
Yeah. I've been in some other things that are a little more, basic in many ways. And it's like, hey, let's have some off-road fun here in the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, I go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say, because we're talking about the Gladiator so much and looking at the silhouette, I'm like, is this like a pickup truck G-Wagon? And then I started thinking of how cool that'd be, but
it's sort of. Yeah, I mean, like, as much as I'm joking about it, I just recently drove a G-Class for the first time, and it was the EV. And yeah, I understand that side of the appeal of it being the ultimate status car. And so, to Mike's point, why not get the convertible? You're going to be silly and try to draw a spotlight on yourself. Get that. And convertibles are more fun than hardtop cars. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll sell every single one that they make, and then they'll get people on the wait list for the next one.
I'm always surprised how many celebrities drive these things, because they're fairly difficult to drive, with the steering and, just how top heavy they can feel. Like, I don't know. I guess you have the money to pay for the repairs if you bend them.
Yeah.
And to your point, Kyle, about convertibles better. I mean, people will always argue, well, it doesn't make the car handle as well, this and that. It's like, it doesn't matter in this thing. If anything, you're helping it off road because there's less weight. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes will sell every single one they make, just like when they had the 6-wheel version, and then when they had the what was the one that was jacked up with the portals, the
The
four squared or
Four Square. Yeah.
yeah, that thing was so cool. I remember seeing that at the auto show and being like, I want this. But there's a part of me I'm realizing now that wants jacked up SUVs that I never thought existed. I'm driving a Bronco Heritage this week and I'm liking it. Like it's like I become a different person behind the wheel. It's just cool. Speaking of cool, Kyle, let's talk about another car you recently drove, the Panamera GTS.
Yes, I got to drive the second Panamera this year for myself, and this one does not have a plug-in hybrid powertrain. The GTS is V8 only. It's the simpler 4,600-pound all-wheel drive twin-turbo sports sedan. It's interesting. I drove the 4S e-hybrid a few months back, and I thought that was such a fantastic everyday car, right? Because it's a big luxury sedan. It can be sporty when you want it to be, or you can drive on electric power through the city and, save some money. Not that Porsche buyers need to worry about saving money, but I guess you're not going to buy the next one if you just keep spending all willy-nilly. This is more focused, and it lacks the Porsche Active Ride that debuted on the plug-in hybrids and on the Taycan that uses the electric architecture to essentially play witchcraft with the suspension and eliminate all body roll. It'll react to bumps. It is so impossibly smooth, and it's incredible. And this doesn't have that. This has a relatively simple, straightforward suspension, and it's really good. That's the thing, is like Porsche knows how to do sports sedans so well. This is so fun to drive, and it really does feel 2 feet shorter than it actually is and more agile. And it sounds fantastic, and I know that I shouldn't really care that much about it, but look, if you're buying an expensive 6-figure sports sedan, you want it to please all the senses, I assume, or as many as it can. I really enjoy this, and I think I applaud Porsche for keeping it in the lineup.
Yeah, I haven't driven anything over the base model recently, and even that I was fully enamored with. So I totally get what you're saying, and it's always felt smaller and lighter than it is, which certain manufacturers can pull off with some cars, which is always a great feat because cars are big and heavy.
Yeah, and I think that's like the important thing when you're buying an enthusiast vehicle, right? Is so many people say that they want to buy crossovers because they feel big and safe, and it's like when I'm in something that's remotely fun to drive, I want it to feel as small as possible. And the Panamera does that in a way that no other sedan in this class does.
Yeah. All right. Well, that just about wraps up our news and reviews on the Auto Guide show, brought to you by eBay Motors. For those of you that are listening or watching, there's a lot we didn't get to cover. So check out our site. And Volvo's teasing the EX60. Porsche's teasing a new 911. We have a fun story about what NFL team would be a car, or what car would be an NFL team. I didn't explain that right, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and lots of other fun little stories and informative ones, like Daniel Ricciardo is an ambassador for Ford Racing now. And yeah, all sorts of great stuff. So we'll take a break, and I'll be back with Colin to talk F1, and then Kyle will join me to wrap things up and take a look at what's next. eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. It's all thanks to their new secure purchase. Ever try to buy a car and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on some blind trust? Or spend half the day at a dealership talking to pushy salespeople and signing paperwork? Or maybe worst of all, wait hours at the DMV just to transfer the title? That era is over. For years, eBay has been the go-to for gearheads, collectors, and DIYers. Because whatever you're into, from classics to SUVs and trucks to imports, eBay's got it. And now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your next ride, it's where you can buy it, start to finish. Sellers and titles are verified, paperwork is handled by experts, and payments are traceable and digital, so you know exactly who you're dealing with and exactly what you're getting. Plus, you can finance, insure, and register your vehicle all in one place. No more hours at the dealership. No more trips to the DMV. Get your vehicle, plates, and paperwork shipped to your door ready to drive. And it's all part of one seamless process designed to feel as easy as buying anything else online. And eligible vehicles purchased on eBay are backed by up to $100,000 in purchase protection. Thinking about selling a ride? Secure Purchase makes that simple too, because you know your buyer and their funds are verified. If you still owe on your car, the financing payoff is fully integrated, so you're not chasing paperwork or waiting on checks to clear. And with Secure Purchase, you get paid fast, and you're not going to be stuck chasing no-shows or answering the fifth, still available messages. This is what modern car buying looks like. Skip the DMV, skip the sketchy meetups. Buy it on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, and eBay subsidiary. All right, welcome back. We have Colin. What on Colin? You go on vacation, I go on vacation, and then the F1 world seems to flip upside down.
Yeah, well, at least they're back at work, which is nice because I feel like we had it was like those 2 summer breaks that were together, and there was a lot of. I would say that my lawn care and house care and stuff vastly improved over the summer because I didn't have any F1 to watch on the weekend. So, but now I guess we're back at it in full swing.
Yeah, we are. So I guess we'll start with the big news of this week, which just relates to me because I was watching the IndyCar finale on Sunday, and then all of a sudden, one of their drivers is peacing out.
Yeah, off and gone. It's funny when they announced this. Okay, he's the test driver. There were rumors that he might also skedaddle entirely and go race Formula 2, which everyone was saying that's nonsense. He's not going to do that. He's not going to go back down the rung. But apparently, it's true, and he's going to become an F2 driver next year. There's 2 things. One is that it's a lot of people say it's a risky move because F2 is kind of a crapshoot sometimes. Guys who have done amazing in F2 have not done well in F1 and vice versa. So he could be taking a big risk there. If he does it and does poorly, they might not want him. But I think he really wants to. He's invested to make the jump, and so this is how he's going to get a shot. And I was reading something this morning on I think motorsport.com that apparently he only needs to finish like 8th in one race to have sufficient super license points to actually become an F1 driver. So it's almost guaranteed that throughout a course of a season, he'll get what he needs and become an F1 driver.
Yeah, it's not like he needs to get V8 and that's to get to. I mean, he can accumulate over races. But you know what? I was talking with some people about this yesterday, and some people saying like, "Oh, he's kind of old already to be trying to jump." It's 25, but I get it. Some guys are in at 18, but it makes sense. We've said this before. Cadillac. I guess you covered the news last week when I wasn't here, but with the team they got, it makes total sense. You got 2 older, experienced guys that have been in multiple teams. They can tell Cadillac through the season, like, you're way off base or you're on the right track. They're not expecting success. I mean, I think Bottas might steal some points here or there. Even Perez could.
Sure.
But the goal is Cadillac wants their team to be competitive by, I think it's 28 when they also bring their engine in. And this is going to be their driver.
Yeah.
And probably Bottas is gone by then. Maybe also Perez, because, I mean, Bottas will be like in his late 30s. So I think he knows he's here for a couple of years to develop the team, and then he can always say like, hey, I'm the one that helped put them on the map, or he can forget about it if the team fails spectacularly. But
yeah, great point. And in the meantime, make some great cash and race some cool cars. So
and if it all works out, he becomes the Cadillac ambassador, and he loves coming to the States and stuff. So it's win-win all around for him. And this, I'm surprised more teams don't do this with their backup drivers, because they need to be there for most weeks in case something happens, but F2 is usually there anyway.
Yeah.
And I relate it to, well, not all sports, but hockey, baseball. If you have a future star, you don't want them sitting on your bench in the major leagues. You put them in the minors so they can play every day and develop and get reps. So this is perfect. And then in a couple of years, he's ready to go. Or like you said, it doesn't work and you realize, well, we shouldn't use him anyway.
Yeah, it A, keeps them fresh, and B, generally improves their confidence, right? Like, because they're just, kicking the butt of everybody in the minors, and they can do it. So yeah, it looks like a Cadillac's continuing to piece things together. It looks very impressive.
Yeah.
But what's not impressive is how long F1 races are, apparently, Mike. I don't know if you saw this story.
Yeah, it's tough. I know the traditionalists will be like, they shouldn't shorten, and I know NASCAR's tried everything under the sun to make their races more interesting with sections, and I don't want that. But
Yeah.
if we went to 80%, I wouldn't be opposed. Like you, I watched all the races, and I usually watch them on tape delay because of our time zone. We have, most races aren't in our time zone, so the first, I'd say third, I'm fully invested and really curious. But then that middle third, sometimes I'll be fast forwarding because not much is happening unless that's when the pit strategy happens. Then I'll watch the last third. So you can maybe tighten it up in the middle.
Yeah, it's true. Like I can't believe I'm the one saying this, right? Like again, so this is for people who aren't familiar. This is Stefano Domenicali, the head of CEO of F1, basically saying that they've potential that F1 races are too long. They need to shorten them up. That apparently people love the sprint races. And also obviously the advertisers love the sprint races. I don't think they love them so much because they're short. They love them because it's more racing and more opportunities to sell, get your brand in front of a big audience, right? So I think that's a big piece of it. So I think that there's sort of competing interests here. One is prove that the entertainment value by making it a bit shorter, but the other is, well, does that mean we can do sprint races at every weekend and then run the main races for shorter? But then I guess it's weird that if you make the other races shorter, then the sprints become less of a sprint, right? But then who knows? Maybe we can even them out somewhere along the line. But I like the idea. There have always been, especially if you have a one pit stop race, there's generally a good long lull in the middle of the race where it's kind of like, okay, here's time to go make myself a coffee or grab another snack or something. There's things calm down in every race for a little while. So and that's one thing that like Martin Brundle, when he's on the F1 broadcast, always talks about. People bitched and moaned about the sprint races, and there are some critiques about them, but basically saying it's a lot better than free practice too, right? Like if in terms of what you're getting to see, like the sprint race is, I think there was only one sprint race that wasn't exciting. Every other one has been quite entertaining. So
yeah, and I mean, Indy's also tried many things because that's probably the closest parallel. Like they remember they used to do double races, two shorter races on back-to-back days, and that's kind of interesting. I actually like that. Now they're doing with the Firestone tires, they have the red tire that burns out real quick, but everyone must use at one point to try to liven things up and create more pits. I personally would almost say the sprint races are too long as well, because they're not quite long enough to need a pit, but they're not short enough that you just go all out. Like it should be a race where everyone's on the soft tire and you're burning that thing down before the end of the race.
Yeah,
but going to a medium or a hard isn't worth it because of how short it is.
Yeah, because they have figured out, well, I don't know. I feel like early on when sprint first came out, there was this thing between using the soft or using the mediums. And guys, can we stretch the soft and versus, and then they just decided it's not worth the risk, and it was also not worth the risk of crashing and bending your car and messing it up for your mechanics. So they're like, we'll just do mediums, and if everybody does it, it evens things out. So I like the idea of. I think even F2 will do like the double headers on a weekend, right? So, and sometimes they'll do double headers with a sprint race as well. So there's like just a ton of F2 racing in one weekend, which I like a lot.
The easy way to make it more interesting and get better pits and strategy, but is the thing racers won't want, and there's no way Pirelli would want, because any tire maker is you make the tires burn out faster. Like you make them worse, but no tire makers wants their tire to be like, oh, look how fast this wore out. And the racers don't want to have to pit or worry about tire wear. But yeah, if they wear out 30% faster on all three levels, more pits and more strategy. But
well, it's always the races, and it seems to never happen anymore because I think Pirelli's been around for so long they figured this out. It used to happen that there would be unpredictable tires. Like it'd be like, oh, the tires, it's just like, yeah, it's 35 Celsius, it's Silverstone today, and all the tires are just melting off the cars record fast, and then that changes all the strategy, and it's like rain, like it just causes chaos, and they got to do something to. So I love when stuff like that happens. Or if you remember, like go back 15 years, tires used to blow out all the damn time. There was like issues, and it's interesting. I think they could. They should try something. I'm not opposed. I thought like when I first read this, I was like, oh, I would. And I know Alonso is there saying that like it's a problem with the kids and TikTok generation, et cetera. I'm like, I get that, but everyone who's honest with himself would acknowledge that there are periods in an F1 race that that get a little slow.
I mean, that's part of the problem. We all have so much other things that can steal our attention. Back in the day, it was like you hunkered in for the race because there was nothing else you could do, and if you liked to watch one, you just sat there. But
Yeah.
got to. Not to get into the tire thing too much, but how you're saying they figured out. Yeah, like when I was with Firestone at Indy, it's crazy. I had no idea. Every track gets its own tire, and every corner of the car has its own tire. They're all slightly different compounds, different sizes, different depending on
Really?
the track. I mean, ovals, obviously, you want the rights to take more load, but even
Yeah.
some tracks that have more rights or ones that have more lefts. Yeah. So, like, they're engineering something like 60 different tires. Then you got to times that by 4 because there's the two compounds. And yeah, it's crazy. So, if Pirelli brings a tire that disintegrates, they could probably just be like, oh, let's go get our spot tire. Maybe that'll be better here. So,
Yeah. Good point.
all right, moving on to our next story.
Oh, yes. Just a little rumor that is, I would say, mostly unsubstantiated because I see lots on Twitter about this and some Instagram posts, etc. But I can find no actual authoritative source. But it's this rumor that Verstappen, after we've heard he's raced or tested their Nürburgring race car, that he could enter the Langstrecken series. They have a doubleheader September 13th, 14th, which it comes between the Italian and Azerbaijan GP, which is like a sort of, people see this as, for some reason, the rumor is that he's going to be racing there in this race or these two races, and that will basically set him up as having done some races so he can compete in the Nürburgring 24 next year. So we'll see if that comes true. Will he race under his Franz Hermann name? Well, I don't know, but time will tell. It's we're talking about whatever guys from like Colton Herta moving up the ranks to Formula One, and then we're talking about guys like Max who are like, let's explore other areas instead of F1.
I think there's only one way this happens. So Ricardo retired today, I guess, or today for us. By the time he had this a couple days ago, because he's going to be a Ford ambassador, leaving basically Red Bull. But Ford's going to power Red Bulls next year, and how much of a deal was made there? And if it's a Mustang GT3 car, which Ford's really starting to push again, that happens to be at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, I could see that as part of their deal to power the Red Bull team next year, and it'd probably be a Red Bull branded car that Max would drive it. That's the only way I see it happening. And it could
the other thing is, so the car that Max drove before, the one that he tested on, is a Red Bull branded sponsored car that he owns. It's his own team that, like, he actually runs a team. In addition to being a driver, he runs this or co-owns, operates this team with these bunch of other drivers who race there. So like there's still a, I don't know. That's why it was funny when those pictures came out, and people who are watching this on video can see it on the screen, him driving the Ferrari, and it says, that he didn't run under his own name in the race or in the practice sessions, and yet the car says Verstappen.com across it. They're like, well, who the hell else is driving? It's like, well, actually, there's a whole bunch of other drivers who do drive that car who aren't named Verstappen. So it's possible. I think that it's fun to speculate. It'd be interesting to see how he does. I know he's interested in lots of different things, and I love seeing when it's like the Daytona 500 and all the NASCAR guys coming to race. I think that's super cool. I love when we see 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I think last year there were like 19 former F1 drivers that raced at Le Mans. Like, that's wild, and I just enjoy seeing that sort of collaboration. And I think actually it benefits those other sports to have the F1 drivers there. They bring in people who might not otherwise watch. So.
Yeah, and I don't think you get clearance to drive his own team, even though he owns one. Like, I really think it would have to be through Ford, because, like you said, the NASCAR guys that do the 24 Hours of Daytona, it's usually they're Chevy drivers, and they're driving the Chevy Corvette or the Cadillac. It's through the other sponsor obligations. So, if you're powering a vehicle and throwing tons of money at a team, you might be able to steal their driver for a weekend if it doesn't coincide with a race weekend. And I have no idea next year if that happens or not. But all right, well, we had other stories, but we better move on. So, big race this weekend. Norris is pretty much relegated to not winning the championship, which is fine. Good for him.
Anything can happen. I know we're supposed to move on, but I still think that it was an engine issue, despite the fact that McLaren says it doesn't. And I feel like Piastri will have an engine issue before the end of the year. So I feel like a DNF for Piastri is due to happen before the season runs out. and that will help bring Norris back a little closer.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm
chassis. Like your engine was smoking, and Mercedes has had a lot of engine issues this year. So anyway, yeah,
nobody believes it.
I mean, we said for weeks, like one of them gets a DNF, that's what's going to decide it. You're right. If Piastri gets one, he's right back in it. But Piastri wins and McLaren gets the thing, and then Lando can try next year.
Yeah.
That team's like, if they didn't start the rest of the season, maybe they lose. Like they're so far ahead, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will talk next week with this week's results and other news and rumors.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. See you later.
All right, so before we end this episode of the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors, take a look at what we've been doing this week. So technically it was kind of last week, but over the weekend I was in Nashville, as I mentioned earlier, to watch the IndyCar season finale with Firestone. There's an article on Auto Guide about sort of how their tire tech trickles down and why it matters. More of a personal family touch as to why it matters than a tech side. And I'll be doing a full review of a tire that we got to drive about 300 miles, so that's pretty good. Then I came home, and then I know I usually don't get to put a lot of miles on things. Then it was through these roads and Tail the Dragon and the Skyway through Tennessee, and then I came home and jumped in a Bronco Heritage 4-door, as I mentioned, which I'm quite enjoying, but I'll save the rest of my thoughts for later.
Excellent. I just gotta say, it looks fantastic. I know we drove a Heritage 2-door last year, and I really liked it. And I saw your vehicle when I went to pick up, and yeah, it's good looking. I am in the 2026 Genesis electrified GV70, and it turns out I'm the first to get it in our area. It just arrived on fleet, and so I really lucked out on that. And I'm also going to save my thoughts for a later episode, of course, but I will say that the changes are subtle. It's one of our favorite EVs in that class. And so there's been some slight improvements to the battery, and now there's a Tesla-style Max port. I'm looking forward to spending more time with it on the weekend. I haven't gotten to drive it much this week yet.
So just some minor updates, but some important ones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so what are you up to next week then?
Ooh, next week. Next week, I will be swapping into a Maverick hybrid all-wheel drive, which I'm very much looking forward to because that is one of the best launch vehicles of the year, as far as I'm concerned. And going elsewhere, I'm traveling for the first time in 6 weeks or so to drive the new Nissan Leaf, which is another one that I think we're all looking forward to because it is an affordable EV. And that's what we've all been talking about. So, really looking forward to it. What about you, Mike?
Are you... Well, I am going nowhere next week, so I will be here and I'll have some time to drive a vehicle that I know you're kind of sad you're going to miss and I've really wanted to drive, and it is the BMW 540i Legacy. Is that
Legacy? Yeah.
It's not a Subaru Legacy. It's a BMW 540i Legacy. What that means is it's sort of like that M3 we had earlier, even though it was on an official throwback, but this is a vehicle sort of to mimic the classic 540i's that we grew up loving.
Yeah, because we don't actually get a 540i normally anymore, right? It's the 530 is the gas, and then you move to electric or a plug-in hybrid. So this is a pure gas, and it's a really subtle color, right?
Yeah, very subtle. And the crazy thing too is it has zero options. Like, when's the last time you drove a German car that has zero options? Not even the paint, like that crazy paint you get as part of the package.
I don't think I've ever driven a German car with zero options.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the 3-liter turbo, so like the 40 cars usually have. But I look forward. I want to see if it kind of gives you that old school vibes or if it's just sort of an image. But I haven't driven a 5 Series period, gas or electric, in so long, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. I can't wait to hear what you think.
Yeah, well, and I can't wait to hear what you think about the all-wheel drive hybrid Maverick, because that might be a car of mine one day, although I'll probably go for the turbo if I get a Maverick. I just can't resist. It's just, I know every aspect says the hybrid's the more sensible one, but when have I ever bought a car sensibly?
Now
So-
the fact that the 4K tow package is available on the all-wheel drive hybrid, that really like cinches it for me. Where I'm just like, if I was in the market, it'd have to be hybrid.
But I also want the Lobo, which is even less practical. So
Yeah, but the Lobo's just fun.
yeah. All right. Well, that wraps things up for this week. We will be back next week, as Kyle said. We'll have lots to talk about. There's a bunch of reviews going up next week. He'll have some adventures, hopefully, to talk about, and some of our
Hopefully.
past adventures we'll finally get to talk about. So lots to talk about. So until then,
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.
So long, everybody.
eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. Ever try to buy your car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.